DBS Islam. We are live on A Week in Focus. We magnify events that have taken precedence in the week globally. Starting from here in Uganda, there has been Ebola confirmed, and one has actually been confirmed in Mubende district. Also, the death and the burial of the Queen has actually left eyebrows raised as presidents from Africa were ferried in a bus driven by a fellow president. But on the lighter note, the Turkish ambassador to Uganda, together with Chare and Tika, were able to establish a 200 capacity orphanage that is going to be bringing smiles to these orphans as their continues and years to come. This and many more in tonight's Week in Focus with myself, Shadrach Shagaf Kisame, and Ashaba Hajara. We come back after a moment. Right, welcome back. Now we are broadcasting here live at Salama Road in Munyonyo, and we are at the .NET Hub. Now remember, a lot happens at the hub. Remember, we're engineers and architects, but also much more a production house for all live streaming content production, TV shows. The list is actually nameless. All you need to do is make your way here at the .NET Hub. But for tonight, you are live on Week in Focus. Welcome to the show, Hajara. We return with a lot of sad news in the past week.
Thank you.
Let's start with the Ebola outbreak.
Yeah.
We have not heard about Ebola in Uganda for quite some time, and one person shows up in Mubende with Ebola positive.
Yeah, our borders are widely open. Normally, Ebola is not an inside case, and the Uganda government has proved quite effective when it comes to fighting pandemics and related diseases. So, yeah, it's been quite a while, but with Ebola, you really can never say that we are done with it completely.
So, if we are to compare the pandemics, are we as scared as it was with COVID-19?
With Ebola, well, given that COVID had more media than it was supposed to have, we were more scared. Yeah, it was at our doorstep, there was a lockdown, but the mortality rate of COVID is way lesser than the mortality rate of Ebola. For example, they say that the mortality rate of COVID, they used to put it at 3%, but the mortality rate of Ebola is put between 25% to around 87%. So you see, the possibility that you're going to die from COVID is way lesser than the possibility that you're going to die from Ebola.
Exactly.
Yeah, the media, the international media is not focusing on it, given that we still even have one case. But no, I don't think that we are going to have as much panic as we had during the COVID pandemic. Taking
from the history of Ebola, how it killed people over a decade ago. Actually, over a decade and a half ago, people died from Ebola a lot. Should Ugandans be scared?
No, like I said, the Ugandan government has really, of all things, proven to be really effective when it comes to fighting these diseases, and especially...
So should we put all our faith in government?
Yeah, I think we have a reason too. You remember in 2014 when there was Ebola in West Africa and the United States, and it was killing people like crazy, and Uganda was looking like people were coming to seek guidance and what have you from the Ugandan government. We even had UPDF soldiers going to West Africa, specifically Sierra Leone, to help them fight Ebola. Yeah, so Uganda has done pretty well when it comes to fighting Ebola, that Ugandans should really have no doubt when it gets to.
Because when you say Ugandan borders are open, should we now take more precautions at the border, not letting people come in, more especially from the DR Congo, or is that over-ambitious?
Yeah, that would be overreacting. Yeah, that would be like what we had during COVID. For example, I have seen a study that was comparing why China's economic growth has gone down. Yeah, it has shrunk while India's has gone up. And the reason was the China's zero lockdown something. Yeah, like their complete lockdown was able to destroy their economy, at least for the time being. So locking the borders would be an overreaction to just one case that actually came through Sudan. And we haven't been hearing a lot of noise about Ebola in Sudan, so there doesn't have to be a reason to really close down the border.
Right. As we wind up about Ebola, does this, because you say we put all our faith in government, and that should be specifically Ministry of Health.
Yeah.
Let's say it go to us. Is Ministry of Health ready?
Yeah. With Ebola. You know, Shadrach, this is not the first time that we're experiencing Ebola, yeah?
And people died, even.
Yeah, the very first time. You know, it's just like COVID. Yeah, when COVID came, the rate at which people were dying is not the same rate that people are dying of COVID today, or how people are dying of COVID 2 months later, yeah? A new disease always keeps people. It finds you not ready and stuff like that. But the fact that the government has been in a position to isolate a case as fast as the moment the person gets in, then I think we should really credit them and have a spike of faith in them.
All right, on that note, everyone, wherever you are, you should really keep good hygiene, and you should watch out for people you feel like have, or you may suspect to have those symptoms, so that you can keep healthy. Still talking about death, this, the unfortunate death of the Queen of England, and what happens thereafter with the burial. This is a sad news. A lot is happening. It is sad specifically for England. And then Ugandans and Africans choose to throw memes of their presidents in buses. What are we doing?
You know, for what it's worth, our president was not in that bus.
Exactly. I kept telling people, my president, you do not box him in a corner. Somehow he wasn't among them.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Newly elected President Ruto was right there with President of Tanzania, being driven by the President of Zimbabwe, Mnangagwa, His Excellency.
I actually couldn't believe that he has experience as a bus driver. But there was this other funny thing. The President of Uganda was represented by General J.J. Odong. He went in the white people's bus.
I am telling you, Ugandans with the memes.
Yeah, but I think it was a huge overreaction from Ugandans, because we are not really used to that, first of all, seeing people of that caliber in
a bus.
Yeah, public transportation. I think that's why we found it as an outrage. Otherwise, we have seen European presidents and prime ministers riding bicycles. Yeah, and kings. So for them, sitting them in a bus wouldn't really be that outrageous. Plus, we decided to take it out of context, because it wasn't just African leaders that were hauled up in a bus but
the picture was mostly our people.
Yeah, because we decided to make that trend. But even most non-G7 countries leaders, they traveled by bus, and they said that. And
then Biden's car chooses to be present somehow.
Biden is the president of the United States of America. It means something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so let's just talk about the relationship of the Queen's reign and the Muslim community.
Yeah.
How was it like?
You're going to hear things both on the positive and the negative, but if you listen to the older Muslims and migrants that are Muslims in the UK, they're going to tell you that the Queen actually tried to establish bridges between the Church of England and Islam in a way that she used it to host interreligious dinners. For people like in England, she became Queen in 1952. And in such a time, you go to a country like England, and they don't just not know about Muslims. It's a thing from afar, and they don't really like them. Those rather segregative times, those things kick in. But if you look at what has happened since 1952 and today, you will think that somehow someone in England was consistently responsible for the relationship and the tolerance of Muslims in England. And it hasn't really been that bad.
It wasn't that bad?
No, it wasn't that bad. The mayor of London is a Muslim.
Impressive.
Sadiq Khan. So in a country where that can happen, I don't think that it is as bad in England as it is in the United States. And you can't credit such things just on the political part, minus including the Queen. In any case, she's the only consistent factor for the past 76 years in England, and the changes that we have seen in as far as interreligious relations are concerned. But that's just England, inside. Otherwise, outside England, we have seen the United Kingdom involve herself in wars that have harassed Muslims. We saw their participation in Iraq. We have seen their participation in Libya, in Syria, in most Arab countries, which are by extension predominantly Muslim. The harassment of groups like Hezbollah, terming them as terrorists, even when they were completely political outfits that really never resorted to killing people and scaring them, which then does not qualify as terrorism. So she does not have a clean slate, but I will credit
internally.
her. I will credit her that Muslims at least have the capacity to stand for positions, and they are going to tell you that at least we get to practice our religion without being harassed for most of the part.
Right. Good remark that goes down in history with the Queen, and may her soul rest in eternal peace. But let's just talk about, now that she is gone, now with the changes with the King now, after over 70 years, what do we expect?
I don't think we should expect much. I think the only person that would take over and I expect a bit of change is someone like Harry. He has always been controversial.
Very controversial.
But Charles is 73. Charles is the new king, Charles III. He's 73. He has been in his mother's shadow for the most of the part. If you have seen videos of the day after his mother's death,
inauguration.
He was telling a servant to move pens, and there is this funny clip that has been, really not funny, that has been moving around. He was shaking hands and he didn't shake the hand of a black person. He was the black person was the next person, and Charles didn't shake his hand. Now, it could have been accidental, but it did not look well given Oprah Winfrey's conversation with Meghan and Harry and what the royal family thinks of blacks. But no, he's 73. He is conservative given his age. He has been in his mother's shadow. So I don't see anything changing, really.
So we do not see anything on the lighter note for our colored brothers in that country.
I'm actually not even excited about it. I am a feminist. I love that there was a queen somewhere. Now a king, not so much.
All right. You know, talking about how because the entire UK was mourning, that should say she was really, really a good person.
She was a monarch. You see,
it has nothing to do with you're either good or bad. The fact, by virtue of the fact that you're in the place you're in, then by default I have to love you or care.
Most people, Shadrach, people really love their kingdoms and their kings and queens. Normally, given where I come from, I don't understand that relationship between subjects and their kings and what have you. But people always revere and they love and they worship and they praise their kings and queens. It does not matter whether the people are monsters or whether they are really nice people. It has nothing to do with it. But the moment someone perceives you as someone that has a birthright to run a particular territory, then just know most of that community is going to love you.
All right. It has been a really sad week for the entire world, really. It's been a somber mood, especially for the United Kingdom. But let's go for a quick breather. We'll return in a bit as we see more stories unfold after the break. All right, welcome back. Now, in case you're just joining us, you are live on Week in Focus. We are magnifying events that have unraveled in the past week globally. Now, the representative or the ambassador for Turkey to Uganda, together with Tika and Share, were actually able to open a facility of 200 orphans in Uganda here. We're seeing the international community coming to do a thing like this, Hajara. And why I was fascinated is that it's happening at a time like now, post the pandemic, when we need this.
Yeah. There are, what actually captured my attention were that it's not exactly spearheaded by the government. There is a time when we were discussing Share here, and someone cited that some of these things that Share brings here, things that are collected by citizens, Turkish citizens, and they say, how about we send this to a certain part of the world and they perhaps help. And then there was the Turkish group here that is trying to coordinate and find cooperations here and there. The moment you see such organizations doing things like this, then you know that a particular country out there is establishing a very concrete relationship with their host country.
Right. So this actually includes our own Muslim channel and DBS that covered the event, and you know, and also these kids from the Public Speakers Academy. You know, they gave their speeches. They went there, and I feel like this is something that is good, that gives now these orphans. You know, it's a community-based service that gives empowerment to these orphans. But the question now would be, is it strictly Muslims?
No, the beauty with Turkey is that it's a largely secular country. Yeah? If you compare Turkey to all the other countries that are its neighbors, especially in the east, Turkey has this allowance of other religions and how they look at them. So no, it's not just for Muslims, it's an establishment that has been put there for orphans. Yeah, so what qualifies you as being an underprivileged orphan? Yeah, so you can access these services, but it's not based on one's religion. Yeah,
Hajira, looking at the images that are on the screen right now, these look like the structure. It's more of a secondary school, you know, high school, university.
Yeah.
How, you know, the facilities are too improved for. Are the orphans going to be able to cope? How are they going to survive in there?
It's not just an orphanage, yeah. There is an administrative block, there are classrooms. So they are not just providing shelter for orphans, they are also making sure that these kids have a decent life. There is an education, there are play fields, yeah. That means that kids can participate in outdoor games like soccer and what have you. And you know, they are not just giving you a place to sleep. Yeah, they are giving you a place to exercise and socialize and attain an education. So that is why the structures look pretty.
But you know, also the structures looking pretty, they're going to create ideas in people's heads to want to be orphans just so they can live in such kind of an environment.
Yeah, except you can't wish and just become an orphan, yeah?
I'm telling you, there are people living lives, and they feel like if I can stay here, if I can be here, I would rather say, you know, I have no parents.
Yeah, except in places where someone tells you that we are taking in 200 people, it means that the scrutiny is rather strict. Yeah, so I do not think that one is going to wish to be there, and then they'll be there. And on that note, Shadrach, I would like to speak to our own people that if you can afford an education, it doesn't matter what quality it is, but if you can afford an education, just know you're too lucky. There are people out there that don't have parents, that don't have anyone and cannot afford these things. So if there is a chance that is targeting them, the best thing you can do is mention a name that someone of this and this name is out there on the street suffering, and then get them these services instead of us that can actually afford these things taking them up.
Yeah, Hajara, you make a very important point when you talk about the scrutiny and the process. But how is it really emphasized? Because you see in Uganda here, people can, you know, kitu kidogo, they pay something to get in because, I mean, they feel like the environment is good, so they would want to get in such a program.
Yeah, that is very much likely to happen where, say, Chale and Tika were just working on this alone. Yeah, they do not have anyone in the local jurisdiction working with them. But the fact that they're going to be in touch with local authorities, LCs and GSOs and what have you, yeah, that helps people to scrutinize. We know this one, we don't know this one. Yeah, you don't just say that tomorrow orphans we are rallying up at these grounds and grounds. You come and register.
Because it's such a kind of environment, anyone would want to be an orphan if they are living.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why there are requirements that one has to fulfill. Yeah, for example, if you had a letter of introduction, you cannot have. For the most part, you can't really have a letter that introduces you falsely and it's from a local authority. Yeah, and then if you are from a particular village, it is easier to identify that this one is an orphan and the other one is not. Yeah. So I really hope that this service gets to help people that it sets out to help.
Let's talking about sustainability and continuity of the program. Do you think that from primary with these orphans, do you think we have a continuity to secondary, maybe an arrangement to secondary school, university of the same grade like what they're showcasing right now?
The wisest thing when you're doing such, when you're offering an education service and you start from primary, then normally you have a group of students that can give you continuity, yeah? Because it's not just the students, it's also the organization that needs continuity. Yeah, so that means that by the time these ones that are in P1 and nursery, I remember speaking to a gentleman from Chale, and he told me that they are looking for kids that are in nursery. Yeah, that means that by the time these kids are able to step in primary 7, they have been here for more than 10 years, and they are able at that point to put up structures that can support secondary education. Alternatively, by that time they would be in a position to liaise with particular institutions and organizations where they can get bursaries for these kids. Yeah, so continuity won't be a problem.
So talking about how this impacts the Turkey-Uganda relationship, now that the Turkish are now getting on ground in activities that are communal like these ones.
In the ambassador's speech, he made note that Marif, it's a Turkish agency, that it held talks with the government and organized and they agreed that it would give education as a service to Ugandan citizens. If you just look at the ambassador's speech, it is speaking of a brotherhood. He tells you that this is here to show you that Turkey sticks to people through the good and the bad times, and we are looking at a brotherhood sort of thing with Uganda. So if you ask me, I would look at those three. Whereas there may be the relations, Turkey has been over the years trying to come into Africa as a diplomatic party, and they have been positioning themselves to negotiate peace, for example, in Ukraine and Russia. So their neutrality and their charity nature has put them in positions to deal with countries like Uganda, and I think that being in a position where they give kids education and shelter is a very good place to start.
Quickly, Hajara, our time is really fast spent. I want us to, as we wind up tonight's discussion, to talk about what's happening between Uganda and the European Union about the Tanzania oil deal. What's happening? Do we see something brewing, or this is something that can be settled and we're done?
For what it's worth, it's Ugandan oil. The fight is about the air corp. The fight is really about the pipeline. The EU is insisting that the pipeline is dangerous to the environment and Uganda should stop. They asked Total, Total is a French company, so they asked them to stop the funding such that it may cripple,
like 80%,
such that it cripples the process. If you ask me, the European Union has no right.
Exactly.
The best thing they can do is to tell Uganda to make sure that they use quality material to construct the pipeline, to make sure that it does not contaminate the environment. But there are very many areas that have these pipelines and people are doing just fine, although we have areas where these pipelines have destroyed the environment, for example, in Nigeria, but it does not happen every time there is a construction of that. And whether this is going to turn out to be a large disagreement, I think it's going to be, but it's going to be okay. It's the European Union, they always...
The European Union has no right to come out and tell us how to man our business. I like how the president says, you can't come to my house and tell me how to arrange it. I think he's right. The European Union should stay out. On that note, we've come to the climax of tonight's episode of Week in Focus. But Hajara, under 30 seconds, your last words to our viewers.
My takeaway for today is that the tax are here and they're constructing schools and orphanages. A lot of people out there have no education. A lot of people out there are struggling. A lot of people out there have no food. Some of us can afford these things. We have people here that are leading the way for us, and it's a good thing to learn that it doesn't matter how much you contribute, but you can change someone's life.
All right, very impressive. Actually, in addition to that, don't look at the tax as your run to, but you can also do something. You know, if you're in the position to do something, they have set precedents, they have been an example. You also can do that, because no one has a monopoly to giving. All right, now from me and the entire DBS management, we would like to say good night, and we'll see you next week.